Brad Wenstrup. Great to have you with us, Brad. Where does the investigation currently stand, and then what are the next steps?
Yeah, well, in many ways, Katrina, this is really just the beginning of where we need to be going. And I'll give you some idea of what hasn't happened in the last few years when it comes to really trying to track down the origins of COVID-19. Recently, the intelligence community just came out with their report. They had a classified report and then an unclassified updated assessment. And some of the stuff in the updated assessment doesn't even agree with what they have in the classified assessment. But they stated in this new finding that there's a broad agreement that there's no way that this, we don't believe that they were developing COVID-19 as a bioweapon in China, that it was not being developed as that. But in their report, they don't mention what the level of confidence was, which you typically get in an intelligence report. I'm a veteran, I'm on the intelligence committee. You usually would say what level of confidence you are seeing. And also they don't give any basis as to why they've come to that conclusion. Look, we've seen things that are out there, well reported, November of 2019, that there were safety issues in the lab in Wuhan. And also, let's point out some of the things we know. The Academy of Military Medical Science in China has a subset to it called the Fifth Institute. And the Fifth Institute focuses on coronaviruses and bioweapons. And they are related with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. In 2005, our own State Department came out and said that the Chinese were working on an offensive weapon or working on offensive bioweapons. We even saw that in 2021, where you saw the people from their Fifth Institute working with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. But I guess is even more apparent that's not mentioned in any of this is that in 2015, the Chinese published a book. They were questioning whether SARS was even natural or was it created. But the title of the book even says it all, where it speaks on human viruses as potential bioweapons, as genetic weapons, as they called it. Look, they've had all these connections. We have all these things that are out there. And what's even more frightening is we have been funding the National Institutes of Health, which then funds places like EcoHealth Alliance, which is doing this research with the Chinese, U.S. and Chinese together, creating coronaviruses and viruses that are what we consider gain of function or chimera. Ralph Barrick in North Carolina, right. Dr. Xi Zhengli in China.
And why do you think the Biden administration was not willing, and especially recently when Biden and Xi met, why was there no conversation about COVID origins? Why does President Biden refuse to, I'm just going to say, go there? It seems like he's fearful. I can't figure out the why behind it.
Well, I can't either, and that's certainly something we want to know. In the Democrats' report, which I hope actually as we move forward, we have a bipartisan report, because many of the Democrats are getting just as upset with the intelligence community not answering our questions when we put them forward. And they also dismissed it as we don't really need to know the origins. It's just not necessary. But it is. I can tell you as a physician, you want to know the origins of something like this. You know how it can be created. But also, as being concerned about our national defense, we need to have the intelligence and the know-how if someone's creating a bioweapon that they can use against us. So I don't understand why they're not talking about it. Maybe they are privately, but I haven't seen any of that. And I certainly would think it's something that we want to address. It's for the best of mankind, really, as we move forward.
Yeah, even if you said that it wasn't being developed, as they're saying, as a bioweapon by the Chinese, you still want to understand where it's coming from to avoid something like this from happening again. So I agree that does seem suspect. How does Dr. Anthony Fauci play into all of this?
Well, we need to find that out. He really hasn't been asked the right questions in my mind. In 2014, he was asked about this gain of function or chimera type research, and he was even questioned as to whether this was going to be dangerous to even do it. I think, and I'm saying I think in his mind, he was saying that if we can create a super infectious virus and have the vaccine for it, there's nothing we can't beat. And he was asked, this is 2014, well, aren't you worried about it getting out of a lab and creating a pandemic? And his response basically was that the benefits outweigh the risk. Well, Dr. Fauci, could you tell us what those benefits are? Because I'm having trouble coming to a conclusion on what the benefits would be. And I think
Right.
the risk obviously can be very dangerous if indeed this is something that came out of a lab. I would say this, Katrina, I think the first super spreader happened at the wet market. It seems to me that is ground zero for where this virus took off. The real question is where did the virus come from? There's
Right.
no evidence that it came from nature, and there's a lot of things that point towards the lab, and we want to dig into it further and get to the truth because it matters.
All right, Congressman Brad Wenstrup, I agree. Americans want transparency. Hopefully we get that. Thanks so much.
Thank you.